It's the 2023 season preview here on the Midweek Podcast. I'm Will Connerly alongside Charlie Bornoff, and we're set to break down all of the preseason top 25 polls according to D1 Baseball, our comments on it, and a good thing, a bad thing, and a player to watch for all of the teams in the top 25, including some teams that we think should be ranked, shouldn't be ranked, our Golden Spikes picks, our preseason All Americans, our sleeper teams, and our top stories as well here for 2023. That went then. We will let you go, of course, but we hope you hang with us for a great podcast. We're about to get underway. And again, Charlie, it's exciting as we talk about this is the one-stop shop for all D1 baseball preview right now for 2023, at least a little bit as we get into the top 25 and some of the things we're looking forward to talk about today. I'm excited that we're back and just a few weeks away from D1 baseball kicking off, coming up on just a little over a week. And so it's going to be fun.
Oh, Will, I'm pumped to be back. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about because we got a lot to talk about today, a lot of exciting storylines. Really big offseason. It's been a long offseason, but I'm happy to get back at it.
I'm happy to get back at it as well. And again, as we mentioned in the preview, as we were going through the show rundown, we were going to give you that top 25 as promised. This is the preseason poll according to Division One baseball, who really has been a leader in covering Division One baseball for a really long time. And we gather a lot of data from that website, or information, maybe not so much data. They do have data on there as well, but they do an incredible job. They're honestly the leaders in many different avenues. We're going to look at their top 25 and provide some of the comments that we have headed into this season. And it's no surprise as we start with number one and work our way down. LSU got that top ranking, Charlie. And I think that the good thing is, well, they've got the number one group of transfers. They got the number one group of new guys coming in. The new talent entered into LSU is a different level than we've ever seen. And we've seen talented bunches like LSU. We've seen talented bunches like others, but I think the good thing I start there is the influx, the added talent, because it wasn't just freshmen. It was the transfer portal that was just so friendly to them as well. That's my good thing for LSU. And I didn't know how you wanted to do this. Should I go good, bad player, or do you want to go good, good, bad, bad player, player? How do we do that, Charlie?
I think we can do good, bad, player. I'm down for that.
All right, hit me with your good.
All right, Will. So I do agree with you. It's always nice when you already have a All Americans on your team or potential All Americans with guys like Trey Morgan, the Golden Spikes nominees like Dylan Cruz, also projected number one pick. It's even nicer when you get guys like Paul Skeens to show up on campus. He's another Golden Spikes nominee, probably going to be the preseason. He's definitely my pick for All American at the utility position. But my good thing is it's really good if you have a team that's balanced, right? You have good pitching, you have solid hitting as well. But it's even better when you are elite at every one of those positions. And that is exactly what LSU has here and what we're talking about. Because you have, like we just said, you have now Dylan Cruz. Now you also had Tommy White from NC State. You have Paul Skeens. You have all these different guys on this team. You have Trey Morgan, who I haven't even talked about yet. It's just you're loaded at the bats. You have so many great transfers in Thatcher Hurd, Christian Little, adding to this team along with Paul Skeens to go along with a good established players like Grant Taylor and Blake Money as well on the pen.
I mean, it's crazy. So as we break down the top 25, go through the list and talk about a good, a bad, and a player. Well, both of our good things, you're talking about their balance. I like that. I'm just talking about their influx of talent. My bad thing, it's hard to say anything bad for a preseason number one team, but also I'm just going to say this as a preface for every team. The bad is the unknown because we haven't played a game yet. But also the bad is preseason polls because I hate preseason polls. I like talking about them.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever. But my bad thing is a concern, right? I think for some of these teams when they have such a well-rounded resume that it's okay, if it's not bad, is it what's the at least a question mark? And they do have questions to answer, don't get me wrong. It's not LSU. I mean, LSU feels like it's LSU versus the world, but there's a lot of really talented teams, and so they have some questions. And one of my questions is, it goes off my good thing, which is how will all these new guys gel together? I know baseball is predominantly an individualized sport. You're at the plate versus the pitcher, but it doesn't always work like that. You're all trying to vibe together on a team and play together. And I think this group can do it. They're certainly on a mission. But that is one of my concerns and could potentially be a bad thing, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's really the only kind of negative you can really find with this team right now, because really on paper it's about as close to flawless as it comes. My bad thing was simply close to yours, is more or less the same thing. Is if there is a negative, we're not going to find out till like April. I gotta see at least 10 to 15 games from this team to really have any kind of real opinion on what could possibly blow up in their face about it.
Certainly. And I think that when we look on the characteristics for teams, like, okay, how is their run scoring? Well, on paper, it should be fantastic. How is their run prevention? Well, on paper, it should be fantastic. And I don't even know. I would probably say, I mean, if you say something is bad, it's always relative, right? If it's
Yeah.
bad for LSU, well, it still might be pretty good,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's still bad. I would guess just talking now, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, and I'm about to talk about my player who is Paul Skeens, who doesn't do much bad things on the field. He can throw the ball incredibly well. He can hit, and I love the all-out utility player. Now, my question, my intrigue, and I think this is something to watch for Paul Skeens, is how does he make the transition from Air Force All-American pedigree to now in the SEC All-American pedigree? I personally think he can do it. I think he's amazing, but that is going to be a question. Of course, you have other big-time dogs coming to this team as well. Cruz, like you mentioned, you can't say LSU without Cruz.
No,
And then
you
also
can't.
Tommy White. I think that when you talk about getting that type of firepower in the lineup, you have to mention him. But Paul Skeens, the two-way dog, that is the guy I'm looking forward to seeing. And I guess if we mentioned right now, it's hard to say, but I would probably say their offense is a little bit ahead of their pitching right now. But even then, you look at the pitching and you're like, man, that's why they're number one.
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm kind of looking at Paul Skeens going from, Air Force competition to the SEC, because Paul Skeens is kind of like the Shohei Ohtani of college baseball in the sense that he truly is elite on both sides of the ball. He's probably going to go first round this year in the draft as a pitcher, but honestly, he could be a top 5 round pick with the bat. But it's kind of like Shohei coming from Japan over to MLB. We know he's the talent, the production's there. We got to see it on the biggest possible stage, and we're going to see that this year with Skeens now in the SEC. I was also going to go with Skeens, but I decided to go in a different direction because Paul, he is the most deserving to be talked about. I'm going to go with a different pitcher, and that is Thatcher Hurd, a guy who I was really high on last year as a true freshman out of UCLA. He was one of the top arms in high school. He went down with a back injury last year pretty early, but in the time he did pitch, they pitched to the tune of a 1.06 ERA with a 46 to 17 strikeout to walk ratio in 34 innings. So, I mean, those are elite numbers in a very good conference in the Pac-12 for a freshman. So if Thatcher Hurd is fully healthy this year, and I saw like projections for D1, they have him as the 4th starting pitcher for this team, so probably the midweek guy. I think there's a really high chance that Thatcher Hurd can become the ace of the staff, or as more or less the Saturday, because Paul Skeens for sure is the Friday spot lockdown.
That is going to be fun to see, that rotation, because Hurd, well, and that was the interesting part, because, and I know we'll get into this, but Hurd was a freshman last year at
Oh yeah.
UCLA. That freshman class was the number one freshman class in the entire nation under Mr. Savage, who I'm excited to talk about later in the
Oh yeah.
show. But I mean, that's an incredible talent, right there with Thatcher. So I think that is a really good point. And when you look at the makeup of their rotation, I think that you really have to consider what those pieces are going to look like on the weekend, because in the SEC, you're going to need to score runs, because a lot of these arms are just, I mean, it's hard to come by. So you're going to need some firepower to match that. We move on to number 2 ranked team in the preseason poll. It's Tennessee. Good thing for me is I truly believe that where you could maybe argue some questions because there's new pieces into the rotation for LSU, there's no new pieces in the rotation for Tennessee. It's the best rotation in the nation. I'll take the Tennessee Volunteers 3 weekend starters over any 3 pitchers in the entire nation. I'm not even talking like rotation. Like, give me a trio of pitchers. I'm taking those guys every single day of the week. Big Chase, who's been on my background before, Chase Burns, Drew Beam. I love their rotation, and that's the good thing for me about the second ranked preseason poll team in Tennessee, who just had an incredible season last year under Mr. Vitello. Excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I agree. I also, for my good, is the staff, because I think it somehow did get better. And the way it got better is the fact that, much like how Thatcher Hurd was a true freshman last year, Chase Burns and Drew Beam were as well. And from the jump, they started shoving like nobody's business. Dollander is hands down, in a way, the number 1 pitching prospect in this year's upcoming draft. So really, the only way they got better is by experience. And the fact that it's very unique that you don't lose anybody, and it's even more unique when you think about you'll probably lose Dollander this year, but you get Burns and Beam back for a junior season, which is bananas.
It is. I mean, those 3 all back, all like at one point late in the year, we were just trying to decide who was the best one.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
they all are sub 2 ERA.
Yeah.
Not one of them. I mean, their staff, it was crazy. They led the nation in runs and ERA for the longest time. Incredible season. And I think at the shortstop position, that's one thing that I'm excited to look at and talk about as well with the transfer from Kansas, Maui Ahuna. That's my player to watch. I kind of jumped the gun there. My bad thing, though, at least my concern is, can they keep up the magic? And I call it magic because they were just so unbelievable. I personally think they can, because for those that haven't been following college baseball, yes, Tennessee is somewhat unprecedented with some of the stuff they did last year, winning at an incredible clip, but that's the direction that Vitello has been having this program go in over the last couple of years. So my question now is that now you got to a point where you were the team to beat. Can you stay there? Because that's what he was aiming to get the program to for years. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to be number 1. Like, he's been building up this program, and it's very respected, and you get that respect with being preseason number 2. Can you continue to build upon that? But not even build upon it now. The building is done. Can you sustain it? I personally believe they can, because I love their staff, and I love the transfer with Ahuna. What do you think their bad thing is?
Yeah, so mine is, can they replace the run production lost? And I do, and I put in parentheses, I do think they can. And the way they can do that is a guy you just talked about, who I also have on this too, is Maui Ahuna from Kansas. Is going to be a stud at shortstop position. But don't overlook Zane Denton, the Alabama transfer, playing. That's going to be locking down the hot corner for Tennessee this year. It's hard to replace guys when you have Drew Gilbert. You lose Drew Gilbert, you lose Jordan Beck or Hancho Jack. You have Luke Lipsius gone. Evan Russell's gone. These guys are all SEC caliber players. But when you upgrade or not upgrade, replace them with elite transfers like Maui Ahuna and Zane Denton, on top of sophomores like Blake Burke, Christian Moore, and even a redshirt sophomore like Jared Dickey, it's hard to not feel good about the offense they still have.
It's a really good point, because they kept that, and that's the thing. Like, offense,
it's still there.
It's still there. They have tons of guys. Like, that offense was unbelievable last year, and I think that when you talk about the run production being a concern, that's very fair. But the counter to that is, you're not going to need many runs. I'm telling you.
No, they won't. They won't.
These arms are nice.
You could score 4 runs in a whole series and still come out 3-0 with this team.
Yes, I'm in love with Chase, Dollander, Burns,
hard not to
and
be.
Beam. That's the sole reason to watch Tennessee every weekend, because they're going to run out a guy that is not only just going to be good, he is going to be a very high draft pick. He is going to probably pitch in the major leagues one day. And he also is going to compete in terms of, like, he's going for a gem every time he goes out there. So that's the cool thing. I kind of already mentioned my player. So did you. So should that lead us to the third team in the country now?
Yeah, for sure. I'm down.
Let's talk about Stanford. Stanford, a team, they're always finding themselves in this conversation for being a top 5, top 10 team in the nation, and they land themselves at 3rd in the preseason poll right now. And there's a lot of good things about this team, one of which is they bring a lot of guys back. They really
They
do,
do.
Charlie. This is a roster, and for those that don't know, well, they made a deep run, and they've been making deep runs lately, and they still have guys back, but I think that it's interesting when you talk about how good Stanford can be and their bullpen. I'm really liking it, and I'm really enjoying what a guy who throws from the left-handed side in Ryan Bruno can do. I'm looking forward to him. He was honored as a D1 baseball preseason All-American first team selection after he had a sub-3 a season ago for the Pac-12 champions, Ryan Bruno. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do because I think he's only going to progress. And seeing him on that preseason list, I'm like, that's a weapon I didn't think about, but
Oh
he's a
yeah.
weapon.
No, absolutely. Especially when the teams like Stanford, who are expecting to, to be in Omaha and compete for a ring this year, it is paramount that you have a elite reliever like a Ryan Bruno can be for this team. There's some other ones that we're going to talk about later in this list, but when you get these deep playoff runs, you're going to need those guys to come in and shut the door because it's a lot of close games when it comes playoff time. And my good thing is I think Stanford's kind of if Stanford was a fruit, they're perfectly ripe right now because I think they have a perfect blend of experience and talent. Because you not only return Carter Graham, you have Tommy Troy, who could be an All-American, Drew Bowser, who could be an All-American, Braden Montgomery, who's a talented two-way, is going to be awesome, and Quinn Matthews, another guy who can be a dog for them this year.
I love Braden Montgomery.
He's a dog.
I mean, so much that was actually my bad thing for this for Stanford is he too good? Now, it's obviously a rhetorical question. I hope you don't answer because the answer is going to be no. But him and Skeens, like what these guys can do for top 5 teams to me is just unbelievable. And I think like I don't think people truly appreciate it as much. Like we see it, you talk about the ultimate example of it in Otani earlier, but that's few and far between. Like
Yeah.
that, okay, we saw it with McKay maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. Like these guys are really on that type level. Now McKay maybe not, but Skeen certainly, and Montgomery, like they both
Yeah.
are dogs, like on
Yes.
both ways, and it's just so impressive. It really is. And I don't know how that could be a bad thing. Like there are obviously negatives that people will say about going 2-way. Oh, it's
Mhm.
going to affect his hitting or it's going to affect his pitching. But like when you look at
Ha-
Skeens and
hasn't happened yet.
yeah, you look at Skeens and Montgomery, it's like, man, it hasn't happened yet. Like you could argue that, like, yeah, he's nowhere near. And I don't know if like he has great stuff on the mound, but
Yeah,
Skeens is like a great pitcher. Now
he is.
Montgomery has like great stuff, and I think he could be. I'm excited to see what his role could be this year. I mean, he had a couple saves in like 18 2/3 last year in a 5.79 ERA. Not like shutting the door, maybe like a Skeens, but like he still was able to hit 18 home runs. He's just an incredible talent, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he can blossom. And that's my quote unquote bad thing. Is he too good?
Must watch, must watch. I love it. So my bad thing is how do they replace the guys they lost up the middle? Okay. The guys up the middle, you lost two massive pieces in Cody Huff at catcher and then All-American caliber player and Brock Jones at center field. You also lost Adam Crampton at shortstop, who's a stalwart for them. Now, with that being said, they do have some really good pieces that can come in there. Saborn Campbell, he did not play last year, but he's looking to man center field. He's got talent. We'll have to see there's a lot of questions about. We'll see what he does. Trevor Haskins is probably going to fill in there at shortstop. Didn't play a ton last year. Is uber talented, very toolsy. I'm excited to watch him play. And then Charlie Som at catcher is a guy who also didn't play very much. They're all sophomores. It's exciting to see them, but those will be key factors in Stanford's success because we know what the other guys like Carter Graham, Tommy Troy, Drew Bowser, and those guys can do already.
Great point. And this is my player to watch here for a Stanford team who is coming off an incredible season when they had 47 victories. They're a fun team to watch. You got to watch Stanford. Like, this is exciting stuff. We're starting the podcast talking about LSU. Incredible with all these transfers. Tennessee, they were amazing. Stanford, like, nobody talks about Tommy Troy, like one of the best players at his position in the entire world, if we talk about college baseball world. And that is unbelievable. Like, he hit 339 last year in 55 games. Like, he
Yeah.
was unbelievable. 15 doubles, like, did everything for you in the field. Like, he's a great player. Tommy Troy's my guy to watch. It feels like he's going to be the leader of this team. And Carter Graham, like, two of your top three hitters right there, Troy and Graham from last year
Yeah.
that was on a deep run, are back. So that's the fun thing to see for what this team could potentially do. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Bowser will have a bigger year, even so much so. I mean, he hit 293 last year, had a big time performance in the postseason, and I think that will certainly continue. So this is a fun team to watch. Montgomery, Bowser, Troy, Graham, they've got pieces, and I guarantee we'll be talking about them all year long.
Absolutely. I'm going to go on the other side of the ball here. My player to watch is Quinn Matthews. He's going to be their Friday guy. He's the projected ace and potential preseason Pac-12 pitcher of the year. I really like watching Matthews play. If you get a chance, please go ahead and watch him this year, because along with Stanford in general, there's no reason not to watch them. And last year, Quinn Matthews went 3.08 ERA, 117 strikeouts to 51 walks in 99 innings pitched this year. Quinn Matthews is a guy who you look for. He's the kind of guy you want when you're making these deep postseason runs to Omaha. A guy that can come in there and shut it down, give you a really good 6-7 innings.
That's great stuff. That is great stuff. As we move along in our preseason rankings, on to number 4. And Charlie, it's Ole Miss. The Rebels come in as the 4th ranked team in the preseason poll. A lot to love for Ole Miss. Well, because you know what they did a year ago, Charlie,
Yes,
under
sir.
Mike Bianco in his 20 plus, I mean, I think it was his 21st season last year. Well, he was able to gather some hardware for him.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the fun thing about this team, is that's one team that you don't forget about, but it's like, oh no, Ole Miss is a team that just did some damage, and 4th in the country right now. They have a lot to like. They really do. Obviously, I think the biggest thing is they have that pedigree at this point. I mean, when you win your last game of the year and it results in a national championship after beating Oklahoma 2 times, well, you first off, you're defending national champs. You just have that dog in you. And also you have those rings. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing. My biggest good thing is Ole Miss has the rings now. And I think that can only help this program.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you win a national championship, there's so many positives come along with that. It boosts your program's reputation, helps with recruiting, the morale's higher, the school is more excited to go to your games, the atmosphere should be more exciting. So definitely rings are a great thing to have. My good thing with that is the best thing about winning a series like that is when you retain a lot of the talent. They did lose plenty of talent. Okay, they did, but they did bring back Peyton Chatagnier, Jacob Gonzalez, Kemp Alderman, TJ McCants, Hunter Elliott. They also added Tulane transfer Ethan Groff, who's looking to be a very good center fielder for them. So they've got a lot of guys there. So while they still have some question marks in there, but they retain a lot of really good core players, especially a guy like Gonzalez, who could potentially be the first shortstop off the board this year in the draft, possibly first team All-American as well. He's in that category.
And as we move on to bad, I think that, I mean, the bad thing, it's few and far. You kind of answered that question. I pose them more as questions than anything else, but who can replace? I don't think anybody can replace the leadership qualities. It's going to take a group effort on that regard. But who can replace at least the production at the plate? You know, the 24 home runs, the 300 average, and the great story of Tim Elko. You know, I think that, you know, so they're going to be able to have that. And so that's one of the bad things. So I just sprinkled that in to respond to you and just tell you also that Gonzalez, who you just mentioned, is my player to watch. He is one of the best shortstops in the nation. And he's a guy that's must see, you know, like some guys are like, Some guys are like, oh wow, the numbers do it for you.
Yeah,
Or there's multiple options to watch a game this weekend. If Jacob Gonzalez is playing in it, there's not too many guys. Like if I had a short list of must see guys, there's not too many guys that will be ahead of him. Like
yeah,
he is
for sure.
must see in many different ways. You look at his numbers and you understand, okay, he's a good all conference, all American type player. But when you see him, and I'm sure many people did on a national stage a year ago
Yeah.
when they got these things, Charlie,
Oh yeah.
for those watching on YouTube, ring finger, but he is must see. So that, and then also just Hunter Elliott. Wasn't that so cool to talk about the young Bucks
Oh
doing
yeah,
the job?
for sure.
Hunter Elliott being one of them. That's kind of my thing to watch. As you hit me with a bad, sorry, I'm going out. I get
It's
excited.
okay.
Bad in player.
So my thing is going. So it's great that you return Hunter Elliott and you get him for another year because he's only a sophomore. Okay. The bad of this is you do lose Dylan DeLucia and you lose a lot of arms, but so you have a ton of inexperience on this team. So there's a lot of question marks around the arms on the staff. But the good thing is they're very talented. But if you look at the projected lineups of that, Grayson Saunier, Xavier Rivas, and Sam Tukin are all guys that have not played at the D1 level because that's high school, D2 transfer, and freshman. So a lot of questions, tons of ability, but we need to see if they can put it together. So it's really a wait and see for that bad one.
Yeah, I know how you mentioned Xavier. I'd wonder. I have no insight on what type of role he'll have.
You're not. Same.
If it will be none or if it will be a lot, I have no idea.
But he's a
But
D2 guy, though. We got to love him.
yes, that kind of pinned the ears back a little bit. Oh yeah, because I saw him throw live in a game last year at Quincy University. So
Yeah.
that was kind of cool. As we move along to the 5th ranked team in the nation again.
Wait, hold on, Will. I got to get my player.
Oh man, no. Oh, you do need to get your player. I almost jumped the
Because
gun.
this is probably my biggest player to watch in sense of who I think will break out.
Oh no. We don't want to skip anything. I'm
Thank you. I
sorry.
appreciate it. No, it's okay, man. My player to watch will be Kemp Alderman. Last year, he's going to probably play the outfield this year. I think he's got a ton more in the tank. I'm really excited. He's got the body for it. I think he could really fill into that hole that Tim Elko has left now with that massive power bat. Because a year ago, Alderman was 285, averaged 15 doubles, 11 home runs. I think Alderman for sure can be in the 18 doubles range, but I think he can easily clear the 20 home run mark for sure. I think Alderman is going to break out in a really big way this year. I think he's going to be one of the top 3 bat for this team.
I think that's a great thing that you mentioned because not only did you lose Elko in terms of an established college hitter, they lost multiple guys who were senior leaders on that team.
Yes.
So who's going to retain some of that production in the lineup for years to come? Because I think being a first-year player in the SEC is hard, and not just. And I'm not saying a freshman, first-year everyday guy, first year being a guy, and some and the hard reality of it, looking and understanding this is there are very few Jacob Gonzalez's. There's more more likely that you're or think about a Kevin Graham that we talked about so much last. Like there's very few guys who get to play 4 years at the SEC level, and so breaking into that role is extremely hard. But now we can move on to our 5th ranked team in the nation here in the preseason poll. Again, just to quickly recap it for you, we'll run through it from time to time, but we've gone down the list directly from D1 Baseball's preseason poll. It goes LSU, Tennessee, Stanford, Ole Miss, who is the reigning champs, and now Texas A&M. What a season they had a year ago after getting all those transfers into the system, and somehow that portal party turned into a party in Omaha. So I am saying a good thing is they've got a great leader and one of the best coaching staffs in the nation. It starts at the top with Jim Schlossnagle.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that one a lot because if you have the good infrastructure, you're gonna get the most out of every single one of your players. It makes it a lot easier to make do with what you have. My good is the fact that they did lose some guys because they had a lot of older transfers, but they returned 2 really big bats that will play a very large role on this team. And Jack Moss at first base and Austin Bost at second base. They both hit well over 350. Bost hit 360. Moss was 380. Also, don't look out for Brett Minich in right field this year. He's also another big bat. But when you have question marks, especially with transfers of guys who aren't used to the culture yet in Texas A&M, it's great to have big-time leaders who are also big-time players in Moss and Bost. or Boast or Boss. I apologize for how you're supposed to pronounce it, but having those guys there to kind of show the new guys the way with the culture is huge.
It is huge. And that's a tough one. BOST. Boast. Because Boast would be like BOAST, So I don't know.
Yeah.
We should know, and we will find out.
Oh yeah.
Maybe on a video, maybe watching SEC Network. But Austin Bost is a guy who I also think is a player to watch for me. He probably is going to prove to be one of the better designated hitters in this league.
Yeah.
Well, when in Texas A&M, well, they're no stranger to having that. But I think when I go to a bad thing, well, that's similar story to a year ago. It was a lot of unknown because Jim Schlossnagle went into the transfer portal, and we didn't know what he was getting until they I mean, that's the crazy part. They had an interesting season. Like they were struggling midway through the year, and then just turned it on. And I think that it was a group that started to get together and play together really well. And then we're just looking at all these guys like, oh, Troy Clonch is going to be a 300 hitter.
Yeah.
Like Ryan Tarjak's going to be a 300 hitter. Dylan Rock is never going to miss a fastball down the middle again. And Jack Moss is going to hit everything like they had. And then Detmer and Dallas started throwing well. Like it was a perfect storm last year. So my bad thing is, I guess, can they whip up that weather forecast again? Because it was
Oh
a
yeah.
storm.
Yeah, and my bad, similar to yours, unproven transfers at key positions. And those guys are, I got to pull back up, is we have J.D. Gregerson at catcher, who's a transfer from Grayson Community College. You also have, where am I looking at here? Hunter Haas, this transfer from ASU. I believe he transferred last year, but just couldn't play or something like that. At shortstop, so that's another key position. Those guys are going to need to step up to really help the Aggies propel forward because those are very key positions in the field and replacing good players. If they can be even just serviceable to slightly above average, that is a huge win for the Aggies.
Agreed upon right there. So we look at I already mentioned my player. I know you got to mention your guy.
Oh yeah. And my player to watch is their ace of the staff, a guy who the numbers don't look great from last year, but the ability is there. And a lot of scouts agree that like it's gonna click this year. And that's Nathan Detmer. Nathan Detmer has all the ability in the world. He's been up to 97, 98. I've been hearing from the fall this year. His numbers this year were 4.99 ERA, but 82 strikeouts to 25 walks, 92 innings. So not bad, but I do think all those numbers will be better. I think the strikeouts will rise, the walks will drop, and that ERA will for sure drop. I'd be shocked if he was anywhere near a 4 ERA this year.
I like that. And somebody that, as we continue on this top 25 list and move on to the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest, who came in at 6th. Charlie, I didn't know if that surprised you or not, that Wake Forest was ranked 6th in the preseason poll. I absolutely love and adore the talent that this group has. But this talent also, like from a talent perspective, there were times last year, Charlie, who I was very high on them toward the end of last
Oh
year.
yeah.
I said, hey, like I don't know if anybody like on paper can beat this team because they are so good. And Camden Minachi is a guy to watch out for, a 6'3" sophomore out of Tampa, Florida. He was a preseason All-American pick, and he was a guy that you really want to look out for here coming up this year, that because he's a big time guy. He had a good season a year ago, and I'm looking to have him, and then also one of the better arms in the nation, and Rhett Lauder, really be the good out of the staff. The talent, the stuff, all of it's there, and I'm looking forward to it because this is a team that has a lot of really good players.
Yeah, they are. And speaking of really good players, my good is they return major bats and experience in a lot of spots. I mean, we talk about experience, you have Nick Kurtz back. He hit 338 last year. Danny Corona, who's a very talented sophomore. Brock Wilkin, who has power for days. He hit 23 bombs this last year. Adam Sarasi, 14 bombs in the left field. Tommy Hawk, one of the best leadoff hitters in not only the ACC, but in college in general. You have Rhett Lauder, you have Teddy McGraw, Josh Hartle. You have so many different guys at so many different positions that it's really, I agree. When I first saw, I was like, okay, 6 seems high, but then like you read about it, you kind of like think about it. Makes a lot of sense why they're here in the 6th spot. And truthfully, they could be a lot higher if everything clicks right for them.
I agree. I mean, they have a lot to like, and they have a lot of names. Like when I bring up the names on their roster, you're like, oh, shoot. Yeah, I was sleeping. Like, this is really, really impressive. And that's the crazy part because on GoDeeks.com, Charlie, we
Yeah.
haven't even had the 2023 roster come out yet.
Yeah.
Like that's the crazy part for me. Like that when we do these preseason polls, it's really hard to gauge some of these things. But because I was trying to look at okay, who else is on the party? But yeah, that's one of the things. My bad thing is that honing in this talent, hopefully, being able to achieve their potential
Yeah.
is my question.
Yeah. Mine's kind of similar. Kind of like some of the other teams talked about so far. The arms are very talented. The only difference is the arms are really fucking talented with this team. So I'm not worried about Rhett Lauder. He's one of the best pitchers in all of college baseball. I expect him to do the exact same thing again, but we really need Josh Hartle and McGraw to step up because those guys have all the talent in the world. And if they can pull it together, they do have that kind of like they'd be the ACC's Tennessee in terms of arms.
Yes, and then my players to watch is Louder because I think he's one of the best arms in the nation. You got to watch him for the Demon Deacons.
Oh yeah.
And then Nick Kurtz, how can he provide some power? Because if they can get him at the corner going with what they already have with Wilkin, that's going to be nasty.
Might be one of the best power corners in the country that year. My player is a guy who I really like. He played a lot last year. Said probably gonna start at second base here. That's Danny Corona. He's only a sophomore, but he had 267, only 7 doubles, 5 home runs. Did struggle, which is okay. That's nothing to be alarmed about because he's got the body, he's got the athleticism, the swing's clean. If Danny Corona can take a step forward and really start becoming the player that like I know he can be, and a lot of people will agree with me on that, this offense kicks up to another gear that they haven't seen from last year, and that makes it even more scary.
I want Wake Forest to have success.
Oh,
And
they could win the ACC
that's
easily.
what they're almost expected to do at
They
this
should be
point.
yeah.
When you look at the ACC and how competitive it was, and multiple ACC teams in this preseason poll that we'll talk about tonight, but that's the thing that's the expectation with the talent they have. Now the question is, can they go do it?
Oh
Now,
yeah.
as we move on to number 7, Florida and the Gators. Good thing for me as well. You return one of the best players in the entire nation. There's no question about it. It's Wyatt Langford, and he is returning. He has 26 home runs under his belt from a season ago, and he might go for the 30-piece this year. An unbelievable power hitter. It's almost puzzling to me sometimes how he doesn't get as much recognition as maybe
Yeah.
he should. He is truly one of the most accomplished, established, impressive. I think impressive is the word that comes to mind when I think about Wyatt Langford, and he is a beast. That's my good thing to watch here for Florida, number 7 in the preseason
He's a
poll.
complete bat. My good almost was a bad until Florida lost Hunter Barco from the draft, obviously, one of the best arms for them in a while. But they reloaded Will because they got a guy that's close and near and dear to our hearts with Hurston Waldrep from Southern Miss. All Waldrep did was absolutely ball out last year. That on top of Brandon Sprout, who has a ton of ability, and if he can really piece together, he's even nastier. And then one of my beside right behind Thatcher Hurd as one of my favorite freshman pitchers from last year is Pierce Coppola, who we didn't get to see a lot of last year, but Pierce Coppola at 6'8" with that really wonky arm angle. Coppola coming as the Sunday guy. This Florida pitching staff can be absolutely disgusting.
Florida's got some promise on the staff. I know, like they've had like they're kind of like not on the now. Some of the names maybe haven't had the major league success, but
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Pitchers University at times with what Florida has done. Like AJ Puck was on the same
Brady
staff
Singer,
as Singer, and
Alex Faedo, Tommy Mace, Hunter
and some
Barco
of
too.
right, and then some of the names we just had talked about, like, oh yeah, these guys aren't there anymore. No, like these are the next guys. Like
Yeah,
if you're in Florida's rotation, like
you're a
you are
dude.
doing a lot of things correct.
You're a dude.
Um, and they have so what do you think their rotation? You were saying that you think it's going to look like what this year. Obviously,
Uh,
we don't know for sure, but honestly, a guy that and the only reason I say this is because, and I don't know where he's going to fit in. It's hard to see, it's hard to read, but Karsten Finvold, when he threw last year in the postseason, that was pretty crazy to me. When he was in the Gainesville Regional, he pitched 4 2/3 in the SEC tournament championship against Tennessee. He was like started to ball out at the end of the year a little bit as a freshman. So I
yeah.
wonder, and then was on the all regional team. I wonder what type of role that young man will have. He was just a freshman last year, getting split on the scene, a little lefty. What do you? I just wonder what their rotation is going to potentially look like.
That's a good point. I could see him probably being the midweek guy. My assumption will be Hurston as the Friday,
Yes, I
and
agree.
then probably Sproat as the Saturday, just because he has more experience than Coppola. And then Coppola Sunday. And if Coppola pitches really well, I could see Coppola becoming the Saturday guy.
Right. And I think that they just have so much talent as well. My guy to watch, it's going to be the same as my good as Wyatt Langford. So I'm not going to have to spoil that. I
Yeah.
mean, everything about this team needs to be surrounded around 26 home runs from Wyatt Langford and how that needs to be talked about more. But
Yeah.
I like how you mentioned their rotation. I like some emerging guys. Like, what can a Finvold do? I think Florida, that has to give them confidence that some young freshman who hadn't done much
Yeah.
all year for him just shoved and didn't just shoved in the playoffs. So that's why I just didn't know, hey, is that going to get you some success? And then also it's like, okay, what is a Josh Rivera going to look like this year for this team? How well can he perform in the infield?
Yeah.
So there's some fun things to look at for this team. My bad thing is now the SEC has to learn about how good Hurston Waldrep
Yep.
is, and 98, 99, like this dude throws the ball extremely hard,
Yeah, he
and you're
does.
gonna have to watch out for it because it's coming at you. He's cocking his. That's a cool thing. Like when you talk about a guy really cocking their arm back, like I don't know, he really just cocks it back and throw. Like he is a hard thrower, and he's not afraid to just say, "Here's my fastball, try and hit it." That's why I'm a big fan of him.
Oh yeah, for sure. My bad is while you have a talented bat like a Wyatt Langford, you even have a really solid bat in like BT Ryapel at the catcher position. Josh Rivera hopefully takes a 6 step forward that we were expecting last year. There are a lot of guys who haven't really played a lot who are now starting on this team and in this lineup. So it's really comes down to how the new bats emerge for the Florida Gators, because the Florida Gators have the talent. They have the top end talent like a Wyatt Langford, obviously. But how does the rest of the team come and follow along with him?
Hit me with that player now.
Pierce Coppola. Um, I can't give any good numbers because only 3 or 4 innings last year, but like if you watch it, you can just see the vision. Like I encourage everyone to really go watch Pierce Coppola, especially if it's on a Sunday. That's an easy click to watch for a Sunday to get a Sunday start game is Pierce Coppola. Long from the right side just was going to crush a lot of people this year, I think.
I like that. I like that pick. I really do. So that we have gone through 7 teams, we move on to our 8th. Certainly a team that has just about as much notoriety as any other in the entire nation in terms of having postseason success. That's the Razorbacks of Arkansas. Good thing for me is the pedigree's there, the talent is there.
Oh yeah. My good thing is similar to talent, but the staff from top we've been talking a lot about the starting rotation. This starting rotation is going to be awesome, but from the starting rotation all the way down to the closer and everyone in between, they are loaded and they're deep. They're one of the deepest in the SEC, if not of all college baseball.
They are, and they've got a really good thing going. I mean, I was looking on Razorbacks.com. Jared Wenger was named a preseason All American as
Yep.
well. Like, that's such a good player over his 4-year playing career at Creighton.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about adding a guy like that, and then you talk about the reinforcements they have. I think that maybe the bad thing is they lost some bats,
They lost. Oh, they
but
lost some big ones
they
though.
lost some bats, but they've got some arms. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to know all the thoughts. I'm going to give you my player to watch and let you hammer. You're going to get to go bad and player, but I want to know Charlie Bornoff's thoughts on the big bad Brady Tigard.
He's one of the most electric pitchers to watch in college, dude. He's sweet. I love watching him. One of the best closers. Like he's a top 3 closer for sure.
I mean, you think Walters?
Walters is number 1 for sure, in my opinion.
Is it Tigard? Tigart? Is that how you say
I
it?
always said Tiger, so I don't know. I think it's
Tigert?
yeah.
Tiger. We'll go with that. I mean, but
If
that's
they're
the
from
thing.
Arkansas, they're probably saying Tiger. You know what I'm saying?
Tiger.
All
But
right,
that's
let
what
the
I'm saying.
Tiger go.
He was the ace, bro, as
Yeah,
a freshman. Like of the
yeah.
bullpen. Like
He's been that
that's
guy.
like he would like that's the thing. Like when you talk about in basketball, go get a bucket. When you talk about in football, go get a bucket. Like it's third and long. Like we're throwing it to Justin Jefferson. Like
Yeah.
that was Tygart as a freshman. He
Yep.
was the ace. Like that's the thing. Like you can be the ace of a staff of a weekend staff, but I really truly think like one thing people sleep on is bullpen ace. Like and as a freshman, like he was a dog.
Yeah. So my bad is how do you replace the middle of the infield slash just some of the bats you lost? Okay, you lost Robert Moore, you lost Caden Wallace, you lost Jalen Battles, you lose Chris Lanzilli, you lose Michael Turner behind the plate too. They brought in really talented transfers. You have Hudson Polk from Oklahoma at catcher. You have John Bolton from Austin P from for shortstop. Jared Wegner, who you mentioned from Creighton, who's gonna be a stud this year, I think. You also have Tavian Johnsonberger from Kansas in the outfield as well. They did reload, but can they replace some massive names like the Arkansas lost from a year ago? So that's my question.
Yeah, I mean that's really going to be a big question. I'm excited to see what Jared can do because
Yeah.
you look at the numbers, they're pretty impressive, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that he's kind of a guy who hasn't been talked about as much, maybe nationally,
Yeah,
but I truly believe that he's going to be a guy and that's going to be pretty impressive in
for
many
sure.
different ways. You look at the experience he's had at Creighton. That's something to really not shy away at. And the funny thing is, and I'm really pulling for him. He won't remember me, but I
We'll remember
played
him.
I played with him on the Hannibal Hoots back in the day,
Yeah.
into the summer of 2019. So he was there, and it was just a little bit headed into my senior year. And I was like, wait, why is this dude playing in this league? Like,
Yeah,
this
he's
dude was the
outclassed.
best player in the league. Like, he was just, and then I think he went to Creighton and was just a stud. Then he went to the Northwoods, and he just has had an incredible career at Creighton. He hit 343 last year. And I mean, he is a stud. He really is. And he's had some, he went from the prospect league to the Northwoods League all the way to last year when he was in the New England Collegiate Baseball League. And I'm excited to see what he can do in his 5th year. I'm going to be watching him just because I'm excited, and then I have that personal connection of getting to
Yeah, for
see
sure.
and then play with him. It's also
Absolutely.
there we go. As we
My
move,
oh, I was gonna
Coach,
say
go ahead.
my player is that one I know you'll love too. That's Jackson Wiggins.
Yes,
One of the most live arms in all of baseball.
dude, they
He
have
sits that
live.
he sits top 9. Yes, he did. They have some legit arms. Hagen Smith is gonna be my other pick
Oh,
too.
can you imagine like
It just must be nice.
the bullpen catcher. You got Wiggins, Hagen Smith, and
Tiger.
Tiger. Bro, they've got like anybody warming up in a late game in SEC action is like 97.
Yeah.
Like the bullpen catcher for Arkansas has to give the highest salary in the
Oh,
SEC.
for sure. His NIL better be good.
Dude, that is unbelievable. Like on bullpen or velo days, bro, like and even in the offseason, these guys all, I mean, that is yes. I'm sorry, I keep jumping the gun, but
No, it's
like
okay.
Jackson Wiggins is a guy I knew you were going to talk about.
Yeah.
I really wanted to talk about him, but you were going to talk about him.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, yes, Jackson is amazing. And he
He
throws
is.
the ball like he's one of the hardest throwers on earth. Like he
And
really is.
if he can put together, he becomes a true force in the SEC.
Yes, I love like
Laughably good.
Arkansas's bullpen really could make them a tough team to beat in the
Oh, for sure.
postseason, and that's
For
what
sure.
happens every year. Like
Yeah.
you saw how Big Smith stepped up last year in that Stillwater craziness, right?
Yes.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like
You
man,
need it.
speaking of that, Stillwater craziness. Let's move on to number 9.
Ooh, that was a good
In
transition.
Oklahoma State. They're the preseason number 9 team. The good thing is they have that firepower. They're pretty stacked in many different areas. I'd just steal your term, Charlie. But the Cowboys, I think the good thing is, although it was a letdown because they kind of choked in certain games late.
Yeah.
That's what people will remember from this team. What they may not remember, it was a big year for the program. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
they made strides forward. Like now you're a top 10 team in the preseason poll. The Cowboys baseball team is legit and they've got a lot of players. I think that firepower is where I start. It's a really good thing.
Yeah, speaking of firepower, my good is their infield stack. You have David Mendham at first base, Rock Riggio at second, Tyler Wolford at third, and then Marcus Brown at short. Riggio and Marcus Brown might be one of the best up the middle guys in the league, especially for sure in the Big 12.
Yeah.
If they're not number one in college baseball, they're at least top 3.
I like that. I like that. One thing that I am concerned about is especially in the arm category,
Yeah.
is the depth. You kind of saw a little bit of flashes of that with all the runs allowed late, but of course, I don't want to focus on that because that run scoring environment was high for every team. I mean, what was it? Missouri State, who scored a ton, and I get it, like that's what happened, but I think the arm depth is something that you look at, because I know last year we were very excited about the arms, and it ended up being the bats that surprised
Yeah.
us. When we looked at, oh, really? Because I remember what was the rotation last year? It was Medeiros at the Sunday.
Justin Campbell.
Justin Campbell obviously was the ace. Like we were like, dude, this rotation's gonna
Got
be
some
something.
dudes.
So I think that's the cool part about college baseball is you work extremely hard to put yourself where the coaching staff wants to put you in a position to be on a weekend in rotation or crack yourself in. And then you have a chance to make a name for yourself once you get a few starts in. And so I think that my thing is, okay, I'm concerned a little bit about what the rotation is going to look like, because they don't have that namesake of last year. And last year, they're already a disappointment. Would you agree? Or is that a little too strong?
For me, I don't look at team. If like to me, it's hard if you host a regional to say the season was a true disappointment. But yes, I do agree. Like when you're expecting
it wasn't a disappointment. I'm just saying the arms.
Oh yes, for sure. I thought Campbell could have potential to be the best pitcher in like baseball, pretty much. But like that's also on me just having maybe a bad read on what he was going to do, because it's sometimes unfair to the things we put on these players, you know. But I do agree with you, because my bad is also the fact that these arms are talented. There's a lot of unproven ones because you lose these guys. Kind of basically the same thing as Ole Miss, but you got to kind of wait and see where it lands.
Like that. I like that. My players to watch is Nolan McLean and Rock Riggio. I felt like when Rock Riggio came up to the plate late, it was freshman versus Smith, Hagen Smith versus Rock Riggio, freshman on freshman late. I remember that, and I remember that the announcer at the time said, if he comes through here, you look all around Stillwater hospitals in about 9 months, a lot of babies are going to be named Rock. I mean, that was unbelievable. That was one of the coolest things I've ever heard on air. I was almost like caught off guard, but and all of that really takes away from what I wanted to say, which is Rock Riggio is a dog. Like you should want to name your kid after him, because he is a legitimate player in every step of I love the way he plays. He's not must see as Jacob Gonzalez is must see, but he's must see in the terms of like the way he plays, like the things that aren't stats. He has that flair, that fire, and I really enjoy it.
You know what his confidence reminds me of? It's old teammate of ours too, is Brock Boyden. They both kind of come up, they're like, I'm that motherfucker, I'm gonna do some shit up this plate up here. They have that confidence. They have Rock Riggio has complete confidence in himself. You know what I'm saying? Rock Riggio could go 0 for 50 to start the season, and you ask him what's going to next at bat, he's going to say he's going to hit it over center field.
Yeah, I don't know. 0 for 50 would be impressive, but
it would be something. My player to watch kind of contradicts what I said with the arms, but this guy's talented and he's pretty damn good. That's Jerron Watts Brown, the transfer from Long Beach State. As a freshman, 3.68 ERA, 111 strikeouts to 29 walks, in only 73 and a third innings. Well, I'm no math magician here. Those are pretty good damn numbers.
Yes, they are. And I think that he will need to be the ace for this team to be a top 10 team.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. You need your aces to be aces. You need your middle hitters to be middle hitters. If not, your team's in trouble. So we move along to number 10, and we talk about Vanderbilt. When we talk about top two, it usually doesn't take getting all the way to 10,
No,
Charlie, to start talking about Tim Corbin's squad. But that's what I talk about when I talk about a good thing, because Tim Corbin's there. That's a great thing. He's
it
a
is.
great coach. You talk about a short list of coaches that I just absolutely adore in the nation right now. Mr. Vitello, check mark. Jay Johnson, check mark. Tim Corbin, check mark.
Check mark.
He's going to get the job done. Jim Schlossnagle, you have to have a check mark there.
Oh,
So,
yes.
I mean, there's a lot of them, and Tim Corbin's one of them who has that check mark. And
Absolutely.
I mean, that's really, it feels like all I can say, at least to start, in terms of Vanderbilt, is Tim Corbin and Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, my good thing is you should be excited about the arms here. Carter Holton's a legitimate ace on the staff. From the left side, he's going to ball out this year. He's just going to be a dog. Sam Hill-Boki is a fourth-year sophomore. He's been injured a lot, but he has a lot of talent. Could be really exciting. Andrew Duke-Kainich, I really don't know how to pronounce that. I'm really sorry, Andrew. You got a really hard last name. I'll figure it out eventually. But these guys are exciting. Thomas Schultz is going to be a really good closer from this year. A year ago, he had a 2.88 ERA with 34 innings pitched and 32 strikeouts with an opponent batting average of 215. Those are usually recipes for success in my looking back at history.
That's amazing. Those are prerequisites. Looking back deep in the archives for that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, you don't have to go too far back in the archives to look at, what Carter Holton can do on the mound. That's my bad thing. Anybody sleeping on this guy, shame on you, because this
up.
dude is unbelievable. Most people forget Chucky. What year was he last year? A thrush. Yes, he was a freshman. This dude is a competitor. That's what, like, when you watch him pitch, most guys aren't going to be out there as a dog as a freshman. He was all freshman SEC. He was unanimous freshman All-American. He was going out there, low ERA, going deep in games, really good at getting outs. I mean, this dude is really good. He's truly one of the best pitchers in the country. And I love this Tim Corbin quote on him. He said, Carter is a gamer, loves a competitive environment. He thrives in it. He is a 70s throwback pitcher. He is one of those rare kids that has a knack for keeping the game simple and not overthinking, but challenging the opponent. And that's exactly what you see when he's out there. He's going to compete. He has that USA summer experience with his good teammate Enrique, who's another guy that, if you're not excited to watch him, talk about lightning in a bottle. Lightning in a bottle, and man, you better get that bottle away, because it's gonna strike, and it's gonna strike hard for Mr. Bradfield Jr. But that's my player to watch. Now we have Chuck E. Cheese hit his bat and player to watch.
My bad is this is not a great bat year for Vanderbilt. There's talent, but like outside for me personally, outside of Parker Nolan, obviously Enrique Bradfield, and then RJ Schreck, the transfer from Duke, and Schreck wasn't a little bit of a slight disappointment last year. It's hard for me to get really excited about these guys. Not that that's no disrespect to them.
No, they lost. Bomb.
They did.
Spencer Jones.
Yes, they lost some really big bats. So it's no diss to the new guys. It's I haven't seen you play a lot. I'm not going to praise you yet because you haven't done a ton yet. I just want to see it for myself.
No, that's completely fair. I actually agree with that
wholeheartedly. And then my player, we already talked about enough, so I'm just going to tell you who it is and we can move on. But it's Carter Holton. Who else could it possibly be? Like he is the face. Him and Bradfield are the co-faces of Vanderbilt this year.
Yes, Bradfield is going to steal a lot of bags. I mean, his steal numbers, we're going to leave that for another podcast, but like, to not get caught stealing, and like, dude, how many bases is Enrique Bradfield going to steal this year? That's the question.
Yeah. We'll see. He's going to have to do a lot more with less power in these bats. He's going to have to manufacture more runs, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you're thinking 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So, I mean, you're thinking he might get a couple a game, you know?
You should if you're a pitcher, like everybody that plays Vanderbilt knows this already. The second Bradfield's on base, you got to hold him close to that bag.
Well, no, when the second he gets on base, it's pretty much triple. It's like
Yeah.
little league now.
Out of the infield, he's getting 2 bases.
It's unbelievable. He really is. Like when you talk about players to watch in the entire nation, Enrique Bradfield's for sure there. Like he is must watch when he's on the base
Yeah,
pass.
for
We move
sure.
along to East Carolina. Good, really good team. I want to know what you think. We'll get to this quickly at the end of our rankings, but I was surprised a little bit to see them at 11, but I understand completely why they D1 baseball put them there. They definitely have a lot of talent and historic success. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's the chip they have on their shoulder always. You're always going to talk about the SEC before us. You're always going to talk about, and that's the chip that they have on their shoulder, and that's the chip that they'll always continue to have. And I guess that I'm continuing to put it on them in that respect.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying because the way the season started off last year was so disastrous. You lose Carson Wisdom for the year because the PED bullshit stuff was going on. No one was like it was hard. They really couldn't stretch out their arms too long because a lot of guys really weren't true starters like that. So there's a lot of patchwork from the team, but they ended up having a great year. They still did not get to Omaha. I think they'll get there eventually. But my good thing is, like I just said, the staff was struggling. The staff is much stronger this year. They have a lot of really good arms, like Carter Spivey, Josh Grosses, and Trey Savage. A lot of talented arms out here. Very excited to watch them play. Spivey he could be that guy. He could be Himothy for all we know. So I'm excited to watch that.
I'm excited to watch that too. Spivvy's my guy to watch. And I don't really necessarily I think the bad thing is you just have to address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is they want to make it to Omaha.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the only thing this team hasn't done yet.
Yeah. It's kind of like yeah, ECU goes to the restaurant and orders the same thing. It's time to try something new. You're a little bit sick of the McChicken. You want the Big Mac this time.
That's right. How about we go on to UNC in North Carolina, or do you need your player to watch?
I did my bad in my player. But that's okay.
Good. I'm going way too quick. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm just so
okay.
excited.
My bad is they did return a lot of bats. They're unproven bats, so the production wasn't there, but they could be better. So that's the optimistic view on. I'm trying to be optimistic on this pod this week. The bats were not big factors last year, but they could be this year, and they need to be if ECU wants to stay at 11 or even climb higher. And then speaking of those guys, the player to watch, who I think is the best bat on their team, is Jacob Jenkins Cowart. The outfielder is, I think, easily their best player. He hit 330, 10 doubles, and 13 homers a year ago. And he's only going to be a sophomore this year. And people like to say that sophomore years can be that sweet spot for college players because, you got all the freshman jitters out of the way, but you're also not too worried about your draft stock because you're not even draft eligible yet. So he really is playing with house money. And it's very scary to think about that if you're playing against ECU.
Very, very scary. I like that. Now, Charlie, what's the move?
UNC, the Tar Heels. There's a couple good players on this team.
Oh my God.
There's a couple.
I mean,
there's a couple,
The good thing, if I don't say it first, you're going to have to say it. Vance Honeycutt is bad.
Vance baby!
Honeycutt is unbelievable. I mean, he was what, a 2020 guy last year?
Yeah.
As a like, talk about all the freshmen we're talking about.
Yes.
That's the thing. People aren't like, we're talking about all these Carter Holden, fresh. We're talking about Vance Honeycutt doing unbelievable things. My good thing is Scott Forbes and his composure. Hopefully he doesn't get ejected at the end of the year again in a regional, but he's an incredible coach. He really is. Like,
absolutely.
He is not to that Rushmorean current day level yet, but he really, truly, it needs to be considered. I mean, Scott Forbes has done an incredible job, and Vance Honeycutt is a bad man.
Yeah, for sure. So my good is they have an elite defense. They have some absolute dogs. Vance Honeycutt, who we are probably Vance, or it's Vance outside of the guys that have been on the pod. Is Vance Honeycutt probably our number one player that we talk about now at this point? It feels like it.
I mean, what else do you need in life?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, he
got everything.
It's hard to say because there's not many things, and it's so cool because the things he did as a freshman, hit 300, check mark. Hit 1,000 home runs, check mark. Didn't he have like almost 1,000 home runs? Like it was
Felt
close.
like it.
steal another 1,000
Yeah.
bases, check mark. Like he just did amazing things. And he was so good. Like it was really comical how good he was as a freshman in the ACC. It was almost like no way. And then because they had him, and then you thought so much about Tommy Tanks, you're like, no, look at this dude, bro.
Speaking about that, I kind of feel like looking back at it now, it's kind of like a tale of two halves. Like Tommy White and Tommy White had a great season overall. It's not taking anything away from Tommy White, but like Tommy White has like the crown prince of the freshman for the first half of the season. But then when it started to get later, I was like, hold on a second. There's this guy out here in Chapel Hill, this Vance Honeycutt kid. He's doing some pretty crazy shit too. And then Vance, because I think Vance really did dominate the tournament too. Like ACC tournament to the college baseball tournament, Vance Honeycutt was talk of the town.
25 home runs and 29 stolen bases as a freshman.
Yes, sir.
25. He was dang near a 30 for 30 guy. That's unheard of for any grade. This dude was
that's an All-American level like senior campaign for most guys.
You're golden spikes if you're doing that.
For sure. Absolutely.
Like 25 and 29. And then still hit 296.
Yeah.
He was so good. And that's the thing I'm looking forward to seeing. He was so good at the end of the year. Can he parlay that momentum into this year? Because that's a scary sight.
It is. And then are you on the bad or am I on bad?
I already said my bad. Vance is a bad man.
He is, dude. My bad is while they have some great players, you have Roberto Ozuna, not Roberto. Oh my, excuse me. Alberto. Sorry, excuse me, not Roberto Ozuna, different guy. Alberto Ozuna. You have Matt Horvath. You have Vance Honeycutt. Very good team overall, obviously, if you have preseason ranked 12th. But did they really get better from last year? That's the real question. I don't know if they really did that. They're still very good, but I don't know if they took another step up to put them in that top 10 kind of category.
Makes sense. Really does. I like that. I like that, Chucky. So my player to watch,
I wonder who could be,
is Vance. It really is.
Same.
Do you have?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing though, is if we kind of like we've almost created a subtopic out of that. Like, is there another player to watch? Because we've talked so much about, you have to watch Vance. Like there's no question about it. If you're not watching Vance, you have something wrong. The sophomore out of Salisbury, North Carolina, I mean, you have to watch him.
Oh, for sure.
I certainly want to. I know Salisbury is, I think, home to a Division II school called Catawba College. I'm glad he didn't go there. I'm glad he decided.
Could you imagine his numbers in D2? Oh my God.
He would be unbelievable. Now, a couple other guys that I want to just mention that I think are good players. Johnny Castagnazzi, I like him. In the infield, you mentioned Osuna. He should
tons
be
of power.
somebody that should be solid. You talk about Ben Peterson, a Florida Southwestern State transfer. He hailed from Cary, North Carolina. Right-handed pitcher, could be decent. Now, there's some other things. Now, they do have a Vanderbilt transfer in Nelson Berkwich, a left-handed from Boca Raton, Florida. I don't know how he's going to be, but there's some names here. There's some names. I think the biggest name I'd say, other than Vancey Vance in the lineup, I mean, you maybe think Castagnazzi. I mean, it's open for debate. You probably would have said that guy would have been Danny Serretti a year ago, but yeah, I don't know.
A lot of exciting things going on in Chapel Hill.
Oh, yes. You got to get down there. I mean, if you want to get to a place, like, that's got to be up there in terms of you smell the dirt on a beautiful Sunday morning. And I would think Chapel Hill's a game where I'd be down to go to a Friday night game. Now, there's some atmospheres in the country where it's like Sunday afternoon feels right.
Mississippi State would be great for a Sunday afternoon. Get the barbecue in the outfield,
Yes, but
that'd be a
Friday night under the lights in Chapel Hill just feels right.
Absolutely.
people dream about being the Friday night guy at Chapel Hill their whole life. It's like,
Yeah,
so that'd be cool.
absolutely.
How about Maryland? I love them.
I do
I'm
too.
high on them. They're a good team. The good thing for me is they have no reason to not believe they're a College World Series contender this year.
Yes. And honestly, D1 said it. A lot of outlets have said it. I mean, they're unless something catastrophic happens, they're the no-brainer to win the Big Ten. There is
Oh my
if
gosh.
it's an utter complete failure if the Terps do not win it this year.
Agreed.
There's no
Agreed.
reason they should do it. They shouldn't. And my good,
Arguably,
yeah, no,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, you
No,
go ahead.
you. Okay.
All right.
Well, I was gonna say the bad thing about that is the Big Ten. You
Yeah.
know, now I think their level of guys. That's the hard part about it is you're not going to go undefeated. As
Yeah.
much as we want them to, and I'm not even necessarily a Maryland fan. I'm a fan of their team,
Yeah.
but I'm not a Maryland fan. But like, they're not going to go undefeated, even in the Big Ten. No team in any conference is going to go undefeated in baseball, but
Yeah.
they should win the Big Ten and they should dominate the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, it is an utter failure because of how talented this team is. If Maryland had the same exact roster in the SEC, you wonder if they would be even higher, just because it's like, wow, they're
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, for sure.
because the roster's nasty. I mean, you look at one of the best catchers in the country. You look at one of the best. I mean, Matt Shaw, just one of the best hitters in the country. You look at Savacool. I love him. He's cool. So you got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. And my good is the bats are insane. They returned 5 guys with 10+ homers. They also have transfer Matt Woods from Bryant, who had 8 a year ago, could probably have more as well. You think you get past Matt Shaw, you're safe. Next thing you know, you're playing. You have to pitch to Kevin Keister. You have to pitch to Luke Schilger. You have to pitch to Nick LaRusso. There's just a lot of guys in this line that can do a lot of damage.
And we're talking damage at a high level. Shagler, is that how you say it?
Schleiger.
Schleiger.
SHLI.
He's a guy I'm excited to watch because the talk of the town is preseason first team All-American.
Yeah.
At the catcher position. And the catcher position is a cool thing. So if they have a leader in that regard, one of the best and then Matt Shaw, one of the best, and then Savacool, one of the so they got multiple preseason All-Americans. Those are my guys to watch.
Yeah, for sure. My bad is the front end of the staff with Nick Dean and Savacool. Very talented, not worried about them. The rest is there's just not a lot of depth. You lost Ryan Ramsey, who threw the majority of the innings for the Terps last year. So you got to really make up for that. And it's going to be hard to do, but we'll see what they do. I believe in what the Terps have been building as a program. So it definitely can still happen, but definitely a question mark. And then my player, you said him as well. Matt Shaw, he's the star of this team. Bubba Eileen was a year ago. It's Shaw this year. When you hit 290 with 11 doubles and 22 home runs, you're doing something right, and you deserve some accolades.
Everywhere he goes, he is the star of the show. I like that bars. One. I really do. As we continue on this top 25, if that's okay with Chuck, I think it is.
Having a fun time.
We move on to number 14, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, well, they've got a lot of good things happening. They were an impressive team last year, Charlie, in many different ways and for many different reasons. And I'm going to let you lead us off here.
Yeah, well, first, I think this is definitely one of the biggest surprises from a year ago, regular season and postseason. Nobody, including us, had Virginia Tech anywhere near the top of the ACC, and they shocked the world. Now, you lose Gavin Cross and guys like him, some big names. The team still has plenty of power because you know what's great, Will? When you lose a guy like Gavin Cross, oh, look at that. You have Jack Hurley and Carson DiMartini back as big old weapons as well. Eduardo Malowensky as well. There's plenty of guys on this team that have a lot of pop and are legit dangerous bats and can do a lot of damage to a lot of different teams.
Somebody who can do a lot of damage to a lot of different teams in a lot of different ways is a guy that's going to be on the mound quite a bit for them. Number 15, Drew Hackenberg. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, Charlie. I'm not sure if you're excited for him or not, but he was a young buck last year, and I think this year he's really going to get it going for him.
Yeah, he definitely could. I'm excited to see him. They'll need him because that goes along with my bad. which is they don't have much speed on the bases, but that can be covered up. That's not the end of the world. The arms are unproven. They have a lot of question marks about the arms, but if Hackenberg can hone in and be a really good Friday guy for them, this takes the Hokies to a whole nother level.
Right. And it's just a lot of unknown. The dude was a high level prospect, but that's all we knew. Didn't
Yep.
throw last year. And so, but he's highly touted from what we see. And you talk about preseason All-American type players. Hackenberg was on that list. Hurley is obviously the star of the show. Higgins also is another guy who I think we need to look at. The 6th-year graduate pitcher, Kieran Higgins. I think that's a guy we need to look at on this team as well.
Oh, for sure. But my player to watch, Will, it's a guy I know you really like, Carson DeMartini at third base. 341, 14 doubles, 15 homers. He's going to be a catalyst. He's going to be the Robin to Jack Hurley's Batman this year, and I'm really excited to see what he does. Especially, and he did all that as a freshman last year. So sophomore season, the thing I said before, sophomore season could possibly be his best season. We should expect really big things from DeMartini.
We really should, and we will. So you got your players, you're good, you're bad.
Oh, yeah.
And we are kind of rolling here on the preseason preview here in 2023 for the D1 baseball season coming up in a little over a week. TCU, that's the one thing to look at. And the good thing is they really, truly do have one of the best players on planet Earth on their team. That's Braden Taylor.
Oh, yeah. My Braden Taylor's exciting. He is one of the best, arguably the best third baseman in college baseball this year. Yeah. My good is, while Braden Taylor has a ton of experience, so does this whole team. You have Curtis Brin. You have Trey Richardson, the transfer from Baylor, who I was really high on last year as well. Had a little bit of a rough season for a while, but did get it kind of back up, got the average to 287. Really good bat, really good glove as well. You have Boyers. You have Nunez out in the outfield. You have Cole Fontanelli at the DH spot. You have Cam Brown, and you have Ryan Vanderhei, Luke Savage. There's just a bunch of guys on this team that are juniors and seniors that it's good things to see because that usually older teams fare well in college baseball because that experience plays really well.
And I'm excited. I cannot wait. February 17th at Globe Life Field, a big-time showdown against number 10 Vanderbilt. You don't get at ease with an NAIA to begin your season, baby. It's feast or famine in TCU. We will see. Starting over at Globe Life with the big-time college baseball showdown against Vanderbilt. How about this Big 12? Now, TCU, you might call me crazy, Charlie, but I mean, you look at some of these teams in the Big 12. You got TCU, you got Texas, you got Oklahoma, you got West Virginia. Of course, I forgot to mention the two guys ahead of all those teams, Oklahoma State and Texas Tech. So if I take a step back, because I was kind of rambling for a second, TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, those are probably the top 3 teams in the Big 12. For me personally, if you had to ask me right now who's going to win the Big 12, and I know we've talked about other Big 12 teams before them, I think TCU is going to win the Big 12. I don't
hate that take.
I'm calling it right now. It's not a hot take either. They were preseason picked in the Big 12 to win the Big 12. Second-year head coach now. And Sar lose, so we'll see. But I like TCU a lot. Yeah. My bad thing is that not much. It really isn't.
I have a bad thing. While talented, this pitching staff needs to show their worth. Cam Brown has a lot of ability. So does Ryan Vanderhei, who was a transfer from Kansas. But here's the thing. You don't want your Friday guy to have a 4.4 ERA. You certainly don't want your Saturday guy to have a 6.46 ERA. You're going to need them to go deep into games. Cam Brown only had 53 innings last year. Vanderhei did have kind of a fuller workload with 78 innings pitched. If those guys can really get to going along with some of their younger arms, TCU, like the bats, okay, we said the experience is there. That's no problem. But I think it's a lot easier to work from having a really good pitching staff so you only score 2 or 3 runs to win a game versus, damn, Braden Taylor's going off, or we have 6 runs on the board, but, Baylor has 8 today. Yeah, pitching staff has to be able to help the bats. It's much easier for the pitching. It's much more for the pitching staff to come out of a good performance than it is for the bats to put up 8, 10 runs every game.
I like that. And then your player
is Ryan Vanderhei. Vanderhei, I really don't know how to pronounce it. It's a very hard name. I need to get better at, but he's got a lot of talent, dude. He touches 97, 98. You know what I'm saying? He's Mr. Fastball. He's got a lot of good stuff. He's got a changeup can be really good, but we got there's a lot of wait to see with him. He's raw, but if he gets it going, man, that is such a big win for TCU.
I would agree. And I think I'm really high on TCU. I might be higher on our next team. That's the 16th ranked team in the country. That's Louisville. The reason why, and I know that they're like, well, you can't be high on everyone. Well, these are top 25 teams. I'm going to be high on them.
You're supposed to be high on him, you know?
God, this is fun. These are the teams you guys need to watch, but we're telling you a little
Get
bit about
excited.
them.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some ACC teams we've already talked about. All right, just to take a step back, Virginia Tech. Okay, we've talked about them just a little bit. North Carolina, talked about sprinkled them
a little bit.
And then earlier it was a top 6 team, 6 Wake Forest. Okay, we talked about them a little bit. Here's the thing, I think this is Louisville's league to win. I mean, just as the same thing I said about, you know what I'm talking about, Charlie? Like, just as the same thing I said about the old Horned Frogs in the Big 12, like, Louisville has a great opportunity, and I think they truly have one of the most consistent, great leaders in the game of college baseball in Christian Knapczyk. So I really think Louisville can win this league. I think it's a great league, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I don't think they'll be regular season winners. I do believe in Wake Forest a lot. But you're not wrong in the sense of the fact that Louisville's a team that no matter how good your team is, you're always checking the rearview mirror to make sure that they're pretty far behind. You know, you don't want them to be a Carlin plant. You want them to be stuck all the way in traffic. You know what I'm saying? You want to be way ahead of them. And speaking of that, the good thing with this Louisville team is the bats are not a concern. Like you mentioned, Christian Knapczyk is back. One of the hardest outs in college baseball, really. Guys that meant they have serious guys, a lot of positions, like Jack Payton's a dog at catcher. You know, Knapczyk's going to play shortstop probably. You know, Tyler Hawkins, is going to be playing center field. You know, there's a lot of guys. Isaac Humphrey's going to be back there in the right field. Like, they have a lot of guys that can do some damage. And the other thing too is Dan McDonald gets the most out of his rosters every year. I don't care how talented it is, how bad it could be, how good it could be. He gets every ounce out of it.
Every dang ounce, every liter, every gram, if we're talking everything. I mean, he's in his 17th season, and he has the second most wins nationally since he took over the program in 2007. Nationally, out of that's a guy we need to talk about much more. I mean, second most wins in all of the world in college baseball since 2007. And here's the interesting thing, Charlie. I think it really comes down to it, and I think it comes down in the Atlantic Division. Talk about this Atlantic Division with Louisville, Wake Forest, NC State, Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and then Boston College. But
a lot of talent.
Louisville and Wake, I think those are the two favorites to win the league, and they're both in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah.
The Central Division's fun. For some reason, Miami seems like a favorite there, but obviously you have North Carolina, Virginia Tech, who we've already talked about on this list. You can't forget about Georgia Tech, who had a great year last year, leading the league or leading the nation in batting average. But yeah, Louisville and Wake Forest, I mean, that is, I think, what it comes down to in the ACC. But I just feel like the pedigree is there for Louisville. Wake Forest, I think you think it's theirs to lose, but really it's not, because they haven't done it yet. Now, Louisville's been there, done that, and I feel like they're like, we're the guys, but Wake has the guys to do it. So now the question is, if they will, I think Louisville is the team that stands in their way the most. That's what I'm trying to say about the ACC.
I see the vision, but my bad thing with Louisville could maybe sway you a little bit. I've talked a lot about how these different teams throughout this top 25 have talented yet unproven arms, right? The issue with Louisville this year kind of is there's a lot of unproven arms, not a ton of star potential there. Like, a lot of their guys are like high 80s, like very low 90s, with the exceptions of Liggett and Ryan Hawks, who have a lot of talent. And that's not to say, like, you can obviously be a very good pitcher at the college level, you know, throwing 88 as long as your stuff's good, you know. But these guys they haven't really shown the progress yet. But like I said before, you can't count out on Dan. So if Dan can get the most out of his pitchers, that's obviously a big thing. But the pitching staff will for sure be a worry, at least in my eyes, this year for Louisville.
Love it. Love to hear it. So now we continue on the podcast. Chuck,
wait a second, William.
You got a player.
Got a player, man.
My player's Christian Knapczyk. Let's hear about you.
Jack Payton. I love myself a talented catcher, and when your catcher hits 349 with 23 doubles, you gotta like that. Jack Payton is going to be a big player for this Louisville team. Probably the second most important, if not the most important bat, just because we all know what Napchuk is going to do. So Napchuk doesn't really. He is the bar, so you kind of need Payton to become that second guy to really elevate the offense to another level.
Fair enough. Now, UCLA.
CLA, let's go.
My thing for them, I'm going to combine it all into one. Good, bad, and players is the young dogs,
Yeah.
because last year they were the number one class and they were good. I mean, they did some good things. I just remember being a freshman. You don't know Jack, and then you
No.
become a sophomore, and you're like, that feels like the year you're most hungry, because
Yeah.
your freshman year, you don't know Jack. In your sophomore year, you try to learn from the mistakes. And then your junior year, a lot of the people, they start thinking about their senior year. So, like, the sophomore year really is a year that a lot of guys can flourish. I think UCLA can do that. And that's that's why I think they're the hardest team to predict. If these sophomores take a step forward, we could be talking about a top 5 team. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
But if they don't, we could definitely be talking about a team that shouldn't be ranked. It's like really, I think there's the most unknown with this team, because literally Savage has taken the route of he had an incredible recruiting class, even lost some guys, but still that nucleus of talent is there.
Yeah. No, I like that because it is a double-edged sword when it comes to youth, because it can be such an advantage, but big moments sometimes it hurts. My good is kind of similar. As the arms really excite me. They're young and they are talented, which is nothing new when it comes to a John Savage team. When you have like Jake Brooks, who's probably going to lead you out on a Friday, but you have Alonzo Treadwell as a sophomore and Ethan Flanagan as a sophomore as your Saturday, Sunday guys. You have Luke Jewett as a sophomore as your closer. I mean, Treadwell's a dog, 2.11 ERA. Flanagan had a 3.28. Jewett had 3.68. These are his freshmen as well in a Pac-12, which is a historically very good conference. Like, these are guys that, like you said, if they take that step forward, UCLA is on a whole nother planet from what we think they can be. And on the other end, if they don't pan out as well, take them out of the top 25 probably,
Definitely.
But I'm willing to bet those arms work out.
I agree. I mentioned all my 3.
Yeah, I guess I should keep going. I totally forgot. The offense isn't great as compared to other years. You still have good guys. You have like Kyle Karros, Cody Schreier is very good. I'm really looking for Malachi Knight to take a step forward. He was one of the top freshman recruits coming in last year. Super talented, athletic. He's going to play very good center field, but I need him to hit more than 250 with a 330 on base percentage. He only had 1 home run and only 5 doubles. You need a lot more doubles. You have the speed like Malachi Knight does. So if Malachi Knight can get to another level, that takes them to another level as well. And then my player to watch is Cody Schreier. Was their best freshman probably last year. He hit 298 with 21 doubles, 9 homers. I expect all those numbers to increase a year for this year.
I love it. We continue on in our podcast breakdown of the top 25. We move on to Southern Miss, and Chucky toward the bottom half of this list. I'm just going to give you my comments on them, and then you can go to yours rather than going back and forth, if it's cool with you. So my good thing is Tanner Hall. My bad thing is Hurston Waldrep, and my good thing to watch is Tanner Hall.
I like it. It's true. Tanner Hall is always, if you hear the name Tanner Hall, it's a good thing. My good, you return 7 starters, so the production should really not be a problem for you there. Okay. Bad thing though, you lost 7 out of your 8 top arms. The only one returning is the best one, thankfully, with Tanner Hall. Now, my player to watch though, Slade Wilkes, cool name, even better player, 288, 17 doubles, 10 home runs. I think the numbers will go up. I think Southern Miss is going to be a very fun team, but arms are a big question.
I like that. I mean, Tanner Hall, such a beast. He can do some great things for you in life. We loved him a lot last year. We really did.
Oh yeah, his numbers were preposterous. Like, it's bananas.
Yes, it is. And so the junior gonna be a beast. He's gonna be a big time professional arm.
Oh yeah.
For me, number 19.
Virginia.
What a team they had a season ago.
Oh yeah.
Jake Jaloff is my good thing.
I like it.
And that is something where he kind of like took the whole world by storm last year. Like, what is this guy doing?
Oh
Hitting
yeah.
500 on some weekends. My bad thing is the depth on the pitching staff. I think that is fair. And then my player to watch is Kyle Teal.
Yeah. Those are great picks all around for sure. My good is the offense starts with Jake Geloff is stacked, so it's really gonna be fun to see them play. The bad, I agree. The staff is far behind the bats, which can really hurt them. If the staff can't get going, it's gonna be really hard for Virginia to really be a competitor for the ACC title, let alone get to Omaha or even a super regional. But the player to watch though is Northwestern transfer. He's gonna be playing probably center field, at least the outfield for the Cavs this year, which is Ethan O'Donnell. A year ago, he hit 320, 10 homers, 24 doubles out of the Big Ten. So that's a name to watch out for.
It's interesting. It really is to see what they can do. And I think that another thing to watch out for is just how dang good the SEC is.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama ranked 20th. I mean, this preseason poll. My question, though, and it's a good thing, they're good. They're ranked 20th.
Yeah.
The bad thing is they're in the SEC, and they really don't get talked about, and they probably shouldn't as much as the other SEC teams. Like, you know, all the teams are ranked in the SEC, or if not, they're on the outside looking in. Like
Yeah.
Auburn wasn't in this top 25, and they've been like two of the last three College World Series. But like obviously, LSU was first, A&M was fifth, Arkansas was sixth, Ole Miss was seventh, and then Auburn and Mississippi State are still like they're going to be ranked at some point this year. I
Yeah.
truly believe that.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
and that's just the Western Division. So like for Alabama to be in there, you think about that, that's pretty cool.
For sure. For Alabama, I actually like this team a lot. They returned 7 guys. Like you have Drew Williamson, Jim Jarvis, Thomas Heidel, Caden Rose, Andrew Pinckney, who's going to be like he's going to be one of my favorite players to watch, and Dominic Temez. Like you bring back a lot of really good guys, so it's exciting. Defensively sick. Bad experienced guys do need to take a step forward. Some of these guys, I'd love to see some more power out of Tuscaloosa this year. They got a lot of guys, but it's really hard to nickel and dime your way through the SEC. We need some guys to send things over the wall. And my player to watch is it like I just said, Andrew Pinckney, outfielder. He's their best outfielder, probably their best player. 303 average, 7 homers, 14 doubles last year. I think those numbers will increase and playing very elite defense out in center field too. Or out in the outfield in general, I should say. And play everywhere.
I love it. I really do. How about another ACC team who should compete toward at least they should be in the running. I don't think they're Louisville or Wake, but they could be, and it's NC State. No Tommy White, but they think that should be no problem because NC State is a team that talk about pedigree. They're a program that's really been on the rise as of late. From the way their season ended a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying, Charlie? Like
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is a team that I think that you cannot take lightly when you talk about the Wolfpack and the baseball program of the ACC. But I think it'll be interesting. Like they have really developed themselves into must-see TV because the atmosphere at those home games are just
Yeah.
awesome. So that's a cool thing. But I don't know. We'll see.
My thing with them is I love the bats they have this year, especially with their transfers. So Gino Grover is going to be Groover is going to be one of the best third basemen in the ACC, if not the whole country. Cozart's a really good catcher. But Will, this is a very slept on transfer haul for the outfield and at DH. You bring Parker Nolan in from Davidson to play in the outfield. Trevor Candelaria, excuse me, from Davidson as well. Both had over 300, both had over double-digit home runs, both had double-digit doubles as well. And you bring Carter Trice, a stud from Dole Dominion, 17 homers a year ago with a 606 slug. Like, those are legit bats that you reloaded with. It really hurts Tommy White, but when you can reload with Nolan, Candelaria, and Trice, you're feeling okay.
That's true.
Now, other end, the pitching is meh. It just is. But the upside is there because if Sam Heifel and Wilson can be healthy, like we all thought they could be a year ago. Heifel was one of like my top guys I was high on his arms last year. If they can be good, those are a legit 1-2 punch in the ACC that could really propel NC State up these rankings. And they really hold the key to the success of this Wolfpack team. And my player to watch, like I talked about already, is Gino Groover, 360 average, 16 doubles, 10 homers from the third base side. Very excited to see him play.
I'm looking forward to all that as well. NC State should be good. Them, Wake, UNC should be a fun ACC.
Oh,
And
for
another
sure.
team I think that should win their division in the ACC is Miami.
Yes.
Obviously not in the same as Louisville and Wake, but Miami, a very good team. I think they have the best closer in the country. I don't think that's too hot of a take in what Walters can do at the back end. And then I really like Yo-Yo. I think Yo-Yo is the guy. Mr. Morales is a guy. You're thinking 20 plus home runs this year. I
Hmm.
mean, that's bad news for all the arms that are going up against him in ACC play. I'll tell you that right now, because
Yeah.
Yo-Yo's a big time. I think he's a star. I don't just think he's a good player, and I think he's going to show that this season.
No, I agree. He's one of those guys when the ball goes off the bat, it explodes off the bat. And he's must watch TV, as you were saying earlier. And
Yes.
he really is, man. My good is they have legit stars like with Yo-Yo Morales and CJ Kafis at first base. Kafis, I think, is one of my favorite bats this year. They also brought in a really big transfer in Ian Farrell from FGCU. A year ago, he hit 322, 21 homers, nine doubles. Like the dude, and he got a 410 on base percentage. That's a really good recipe. That's a really good bat that you like to see on your team. The bad, the rest of the bats need to step up because like you do have like legit stars in Kafis and Yo-Yo Morales. I would love to see Don Patelli and Dorian Gonzalez at short and second base respectively take that step forward to take the pressure off of Kafis and Yo-Yo. Because by doing that, because like, they're only two guys and they're on the college level. It's not that we're at like they're not their Mike Trout. Mike Trout could carry this team, but Kafis and Yo-Yo are not that. But guys like Dorian and Patelli, they can step up. This team becomes a whole nother level of scary to every pitcher in the ACC. And then my player to watch is CJ Kafis. I think he has a legit chance to be in the top first base this year when all is said and done. He hit 366 with 12 doubles and 8 homers a year ago. And then also, I'm cheating a little because this guy had my favorite changeup to watch in all of college last year, and that's Carson Ligon, who's probably going to be the Saturday guy for Miami. If he can really figure it all out, he is going to be a total X factor for this team.
Well said. I think Miami is a team that can make a run
Oh, yeah.
in the ACC and into potentially a super regional and beyond, because they have the closer, they have the star, and like you mentioned, they have some good players who could step up and do some good things.
Oh, yeah.
Now, talking about doing some good things at the front end of a rotation, coming in at 23rd to South Carolina and coming in at toward the top of my list in terms of guys to watch this season. Once again, I know that list is getting a little more lengthy as we go down, but I really truly believe Will Sanders is a guy you need to see. You talk about what he can do from 60 feet and 6 inches away. Not many people can do better than what he can do on that slab.
No, absolutely. Will Sanders, I think, is the only guy that can compete with Chase Dollander in the SEC and just in college baseball in general. So my good is this. The Cox will be slinging. You have Will Sanders as a premier Friday guy. Noah Hall is going to be a very solid Saturday guy. And then Jack Mahoney, because he's a very intriguing potential Sunday guy, if just not an arm in general to have on the team. If those guys can do it, that is going to be a really hard Friday through Sunday. It's a tough weekend for anybody. My bad, though, is offense was one of the worst in the SEC a year ago. They did get some transfers like Will McGillis from Southern Miss. You have Gavin Costas from Vanderbilt. You have Caleb Denny from Oral Roberts. Dylan Brewer from Clemson. That was crazy. They got a few Clemson transfers, which is unheard of in South Carolina. But those guys can hopefully those guys can really elevate the Gamecocks offense to pair with that incredible pitching staff. And if they can do that, it's incredible. And you and I both have the same player to watch. It's Will Sanders. If anybody watches any pitcher this year that's not Chase Dollander, do yourself a favor, tune into a Gamecocks game and watch Will Sanders pitch. He's a stud.
Well said. Very much so. Looking forward to that. And I think it's going to be big time. I really do. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see. We've got Charlie Bornoff excited about it. I'm excited about it. And we're also excited to move along to our 24th team in Texas Tech. This is an interesting team. I mean, you talk about T-Tech at 24, Charlie. That's the first thing that comes to mind, because you felt like a season ago we were really following them. They don't feel like the competitor in the 12 like TCU is going to be, but they're still coming in at ranked 24th, which I find interesting.
Yeah, I'm not the highest on Texas Tech. then again, kind similar to what O'Donnell does, Tim Tadlock is a guy that gets everything out of his team, which is kind of a mark of a good coach. You can really never count Tech out, which is always a good thing. My good though really is they have good arms and a lot of upside in the bullpen. You have Mason Molina as probably gonna be your potentially your lead pitcher for this team, which is exciting. He's a very talented guy to look out for. My bad though is you return a lot of bats, but it was the guys who are less productive. Like you lose Young, you lose Collins, you lose these guys. It hurts, but you need them to be better. They can be better. It definitely solidifies Tech in this top 25, where I do have some questions with them. And the guy I think that can really lead that charge on the offensive end is Hudson White, their catcher. He's my player to watch. As I believe, freshman last year. Yeah, freshman last year, 259, 11 doubles, 6 homers, and 35 walks. I think that 35 walks is very impressive for a catcher in general because you love to stay from catcher, but as a freshman as well doing it, having a catcher that's patient at the plate and can put some stroke on the ball is a really good thing.
I really like that. Want to know what else is really good?
What is that, Will?
A team that returns 6 starters. A
Oh, yeah.
team that I feel like should be ranked higher than 25th in a preseason poll is the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah.
I like a guy. Let's think about this. A former All-American, Tanner Smith. Guess what? He returns to the team. How about Jacob Walsh, a freshman All-American last year? Guess what? He returns to the team.
Yeah.
Multiple starters back at catcher. Their first baseman and Walsh is back. Gavin Grant is back at second. Drew Cowley back at third. Smith, of course, back patrolling left field. They got Shade back in center field. 6 starters back. You're 25th, 2 of which, Tanner Smith, they're good. They're a good team, and they're going to be competing as well.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. Obviously in the Pac-12, it's them and it's Stanford pretty
Yeah.
much. Is that fair to say? You talk about Oregon State a lot with it, but that's kind of how it goes.
I think UCLA has higher upside, but they're more volatile. So you know what I'm saying?
I did tweak on UCLA. They're still there too. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but in fairness, Stanford, though, I really think it's kind of Stanford's to run away with. But I do think that this Oregon team is stacked bat wise. I really believe in Jacob Walsh. We even talked about it. Some people need to look out for. He's not going to lead this team in hitting by any means, but Raiku Nishida, the junior college transfer, is going to steal a million bases here in the Pac-12. Drew Cowley could be an absolute dog this year from, like you said, Tanner Smith, their all-time hits leader. Having him back is so big. Owen Diodati, the transfer from Alabama, could be a really nice piece to add to this. Great. Diodati is one of my favorite last names to say. It's just a lot of fun to say, you know?
It's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I knew you'd like it. I knew you'd like it. So that's my good.
We love it.
My bad is, can the pitching be enough to get them out of the Pac-12? And I really don't know if it is or not. They have a lot of question marks with that. Like Jay Stoffel is their projected Friday guy. He had a 5.59 last year, only 20. There's a lot of inexperience. If you look at this whole roster, it's 29 innings pitched, 68 innings pitched, which is good from RJ Gordon, 41 from Logan Mercado. There's a lot of questions and a lot of inexperience. So they really need that to step up. My player to watch, though, is Jacob Walsh as a freshman at that first base bag. 295, 18 doubles, 6 home runs. I think he's going to for sure hit double-digit home runs. Probably doubles won't change that much. He's not much of a speed guy, but the home runs, I think, will catch up to the doubles for sure.
I think this Oregon team's good. You mentioned more guys to make me higher on them. Diodati, yes, he's a great hitter, along with Tanner Smith, a great All-American, one of the most experienced hitters in all of college baseball.
Yeah.
Him and Diodati along with Walsh. This Oregon team's good. You got to look out for them. Of course, UCLA and Stanford in the pack, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch, fun to see. But that concludes our top 25 breakdown there. That was pretty fun to go through every single team.
It was. I had fun. Took us a while, but that's okay.
Definitely. No doubt. So now a few teams that we think should be ranked. Is that what we're going with now?
Yeah.
Should be ranked. So it's hard to argue with D1Baseball.com. They're the best at covering D1 baseball.
Yeah.
One team that I think you could have considered is Auburn. They've reached College World Series 2 in the last 3 seasons. Still got Cole Foster and Bryson Ware and Allsup as an arm, and of course Bobby Pierce, who's very, very experienced.
Yeah.
I like them. other teams that I don't think should be ranked, but I think should potentially be considered because they were very interesting stories last year. Because it really is hard to argue.
Yeah.
I like arguing, but I don't like arguing on preseason polls, really, Charlie. Like
Yeah.
it's just like whatever.
It
But
doesn't mean much. Yeah.
yeah, I like arguing though. But it's
Oh
just like
yeah.
preseason. Come on. But Georgia Tech, I loved them. Their lineup last year, obviously, they had the best batting average in the nation. But I thought that was interesting. So
Yeah.
those are two for me that I just think you think about, and maybe although we didn't mention them, teams we might talk about at some point this season. Now, I think Auburn much more so than Tech, just
Yeah.
because I think Tech was it was a good year for them, but Auburn is Auburn.
Yeah. I agree with you on Auburn. I totally get that for sure. Tech's kind of team I'm using like that. I would probably switch out with most of these. I wouldn't have Tech in my top 25. I get it, but I just personally wouldn't because like you lose the pitcher of the year in the Big 12 with Brandon Birdsell. You lose one of your other top pitchers, Andrew Morris. You lose an absolute stud bat in Jace Young. It's hard to replace those kind of guys. But one of the teams I think should be ranked potentially is Mississippi State. They have a ton of talent. Last year, I think, was very fluky, and I think they're still being affected by that now, which is fair. When you blow up like that, even though it was injuries and a little bit underperformance, I totally get it. But when you have guys like Hunter Hines, Caleb Clark, like there's a lot of really good bats out there and arms on that team still. So I think the Bulldogs could really bounce back and surprise a lot of people. The other one I'm gonna throw out there, like just it's more of like a food for thought more than I really like buy into it right now though, is FSU because I like Link Jarrett. I'm excited he's back at FSU
Yes.
now. Their pitching potential alone is insane though, because if he can get the best out of Carson Montgomery and Wyatt Crowell, that does become one of the best 1-2 punches in the country right there. And so
I'm
so
all about
yeah,
that.
for sure. And then for shouldn't be ranked, Tech, if you haven't guessed yet, Texas Tech would probably be mine if I were to choose one. And then UCLA would be my other one. I wouldn't though, just because of like how high their ceiling is for this
Yeah.
season. I'd probably just keep them in there because like once again, it's the preseason poll. It really doesn't hurt anybody. They definitely could collapse and it not work, but if it does work, oh my god, the payoff is incredible.
And the thing is, that's the hard part. It's like the job of a preseason poll, is it to predict what you're going to be at the end of the season, or is it
Yeah,
to predict what you are ranked right now? Because right now, I don't know. But the hard part about it is John Savage had 40 wins last year,
yeah,
right? With all these freshmen, and their freshmen are just unbelievable. Like their starting pitching is great, their defense is great. Like there's at least in terms of a ceiling perspective, there's no point of the ceiling that makes you thinking of maybe next year, the year after. Like we're talking about them like Tennessee. Like that's
yeah,
how
for
the
sure.
ceiling is there. The offense struggled a little bit last season. I just felt like that was a team that it's not like they shouldn't be ranked. It's just interesting to think how much respect they're getting. And I think
Yeah,
that alone is one of the massive stories this season in college baseball, because is this a team that ascends? If all these freshmen start to figure it out, we're really not talking about top 20. We're talking about top 5. Now,
yeah,
if they don't, like I could see it going really well or really bad. And so I guess 17 is kind of where you put him,
yeah,
because John Savage has been to 25 straight regionals. He's
yeah,
gonna go back to another. They're gonna improve.
for
So
sure.
that's the interesting thing.
And plus, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt because, like you said, they won 40 games with a lot of these same guys last year. You know?
Right. Yeah. It was just, yeah. No, it's just interesting because I want to see them light the world on fire. I really
Yeah, for
do.
sure.
I think it would just be, I think it's great for UCLA and college baseball if they're a dominant program. I
Yeah,
really do.
you need a Southern California team to be good. It makes college baseball a little more fun.
Right. I agree. I really do. And you look at, teams in Southern California, like who better to do it than the young man and the young men
Yeah,
of
youth movement.
UCLA.
Is it Golden Spikes time?
It is.
Do
It's
you want to go
Golden
back and forth on
Spikes
this
time.
one, or just want to run it down?
I'll just run through mine.
All right.
Golden Spikes guys to watch out for him. Hot take here. Braden Montgomery. If he has a great year, you really got to look. Like if Stanford's going crazy, this isn't,
Yeah.
you know, hot and deep dark horse. And then non-dark horse, but very, very, I think, legitimate possibility, Jacob Gonzalez. And then other
Yeah,
one is Wyatt Langford, because I think he's 30 plus maybe this
for
year.
sure.
Unbelievable. And then my honorable mentions are you can pick any of the big three on Cruz, Skeens, White, any of them as well. I really love
Yeah.
your list though. I'm kind of jealous because you have a fire list, and I'm gonna let you go.
You like it? I appreciate it, man. All right. So my main nominees, Dylan Cruz. When you're the best prospect and you check all the boxes, it's hard not to go with that kind of guy. Chase Dollander, best pitcher in baseball probably for college. Really is kind of a one-man army. Like he's a walking W. Like you give him one run, you probably have the W. It's that kind of guy. And then Vance Honeycutt's my third one. He's kind of like more of like taking a little more of a shot, like he's only a sophomore, but like it's really you look at him like, what do you not like about his game? Like, there's nothing to dislike. Honorable mention is the Jacobs, Jacob Wilson, shortstop at GCU, probably one of the best small school players in the country this year. He could be kind of well. He's kind of like this year's Zach Neto in the sense of like he's probably gonna go first round on a school that's on the rise, different side of the country this time, but he's kind of like that. And Jacob Gonzalez as well. He is probably the best shortstop prospect draft wise, has tons of power. Had like a down year last year, but still it's like 17 homers. So like that shows what kind of guy he is. And then my dark horse is Will Sanders. Because Will Sanders, like I said earlier, is the only guy that I truly believe can catch if and potentially surpass Chase Dollander in terms of performance this year. So Will Sanders is my last pick.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at your list, it's hard to argue. It's hard for me to forget about Van Honeycutt. I want to see him have
Yeah.
success. When you talk about Dollander, I had him obviously. He's the best pitcher in the country. I had him on my. He was my starting pitcher in my All American team I created. Um, and yeah, he checks every box. If there's a box, it's checked. Vance is amazing,
Yeah.
and then also Jacob Wilson kind of reminds me of Brooks Lee too, like Cal Poly, like
I like that. Yeah. Yeah.
same talk about
Yes.
Neto.
He's in that category of like small school but elite talent.
Yeah, so that's I love it. I do a lot. So
Yeah. Appreciate it,
now
man.
should we run through our preseason All American teams now?
I think so.
All right. I'll just run down my list. Let me know if you have qualms. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Catcher Michael Carrico Davidson. First
Fair.
baseman Carter Graham Stanford.
Yeah, like that's fair.
Second baseman Christian Knapchek.
Fair.
Third baseman Braden Taylor. Short, I got Jacob Gonzalez. The outfield, I'm loving my outfield. Dylan Cruz, Wyatt Langford, and Enrique Bradfield Jr. And then I got Chase as my pitcher. I'll take any of them. Burns, I'm taking Dollander. And then Walters is my reliever. Skeens is my utility.
I like that. I don't know if Carter Grant will be the first baseman, but like the production will be there to have the argument at least. You know what I'm saying? But I have a different guy, but that's okay. So mine is Kyle Teal out of Virginia at catcher. One of the best out there, I think. First baseman, CJ Kafis, Miami.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most fun at bats to watch.
You were high on him. I like
I
that.
like CJ Kafis, man. He was like I used to watch a lot of Miami last year. Like he was always caught my eye. Tommy Troy, second base out of Stanford, probably I think the best second baseman in the league.
That's
Third
fair.
base, third base, Yo-Yo Morales out of Miami. I chose him because I do think he has that potential. And I do agree with the Brandon Taylor pick. I just want to show a different look for the audience. / also, I do think he like if things break his way, the power numbers will be there. I think that he could have surpassed Taylor in a way. Like, I think Taylor will always have the higher average, but if Yo-Yo hits like 25 bombs, might be hard to overlook, you know? Shortstop, Jacob Wilson. I really believe in Jacob Wilson. I really like his game at a GCU, Grand Canyon University. Now, you and I both have two of the same outfielders, Dylan Cruz, LSU, and Wyatt Langford, Florida. We differ on I have Vance Honeycutt instead of Enrique Bradfield. Honeycutt just because he steals bases, obviously not to the extent of Bradfield, but close enough. He plays just good enough. He plays, yeah, he has a lot. He has the power aspect, which really I think separates him. Now, I did take some more. I did 2-3 pitchers, and I did do a DH because DH seemed fun to me. So Tommy White, I think we'd agree Tommy White's probably the favorite for DH at a LSU.
Now, do you consider your Maryland team? Do you consider it? You know, they got a little DH over there too. But yeah, I
They
like that.
do. They
Tommy
do.
Tank.
But Tommy White, man,
Yeah,
because
Tommy
he's
White.
so protect. Because Tommy White has also the advantage.
Dude,
And this
Tommy
goes
might
for
have a
Cruz and
better,
Trey
yeah.
Morgan. Them.
Tommy might
Because like the
have a
fact that like
better,
he's
that's
protected.
scary to think. He might have a better
Yes, dude.
year with all that
Oh my. Because
protection.
they. Yeah.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. It's gonna be
He might
crazy.
hit, I mean, he nearly hit 30 last year. Oh my
Yeah. He's got
gosh.
another year. My 3 starting pitchers. Chase Dollander is the number 1 starting pitcher for me. Will Sanders number 2. That's how much I like Will Sanders. And then Tanner Hall. If Tanner Hall does anything remote to what he did last year, like no brainer. My relief pitcher, same as yours, Andrew Walters, Miami, and then we both have the same utility with Paul Skeens at LSU.
I like that. I like our list.
I do too.
I'll say that I omitted Vance on the preseason list and the Golden Spikes list. And that's kind of questionable decision by me. Now, Cruz, Langford, and Bradfield, it's hard to have qualms with those
Yeah,
guys, but I love me some Vance. So I'm glad that was brought
yeah.
up. And I'm
You
glad that
you
he
don't
was.
if yeah. Oh, sorry. If someone disagrees with you having Bradfield on your list, they don't know college baseball. You know, it's a very
I just.
legitimate pick.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I just picked some fifth outfielder, but like at the end of the
Yeah,
day, even myself, like I'm glad Vance was represented. I'll leave it at that in the
yeah.
podcast.
It's
Sleeper
fair.
teams, Campbell and Kay
It's a school we're
Keeler.
familiar with. Oh, Kay
Only
Keeler's gonna be
reason
such a
it's a
dog.
sleeper team is because I know they're not going to be slept on this podcast.
Oh
That's
no, they won't. But I understand. I do understand where people are coming from. Like when you lose guys like a Zach Neto and a
oh
Thomas
yeah, they
Harrington,
shouldn't
it's
be
it's
ranked
hard.
or anything.
Yeah,
They should
but
be slept on, but
they should be slept on.
they have Keeler. They have
Keeler,
good hitters still
they
returning in that
returned a
lineup.
lot, man. Like they, Bowie
What
Creek should be
Pearson, right?
excited. Pearson's gonna be a dog this year. And they got
So
Belbin back too.
that's what I'm talking about.
My sleepers were Campbell as well. Rutgers, they got screwed out of the tournament last year. I hope that doesn't happen to them this year as well. They're probably the second best Big Ten team in the league. No, not probably. They are the second best Big Ten team. Ryan Lasko's a goddamn dog. And then my last one, a team that's close to us. Well, we know a lot of guys from St. Louis who played there. I had a teammate who played there. Shout out to Anthony Klein. The SEMO, Southeast Missouri State Redhawks. They reloaded after a very, very good year last year that got them into the tournament. And they're my favorite to win the Ohio Valley Conference. So those are my sleepers.
I love it. Now, my top stories for 2023. As we wrap up the podcast, this has been so much fun today.
Oh, yeah.
Getting the juices flowing, breaking down every top 25 team, our thoughts on it, our thoughts on each team, our thoughts on who should be in, who should be out, sleepers, preseason picks, and then these are just some stories for you guys to chew on as we say so long. So my stories, number one is, can Michael Carrico get more respect this season?
Hopefully.
He had one of the best years in all of college baseball last year for Davidson, and it's a progressing story because if you're a great player, you're probably in the ACC or the SEC, but he's in the A10
for sure.
and he's doing great stuff. So that's my number one story. My second story is, who is going to be the program that ascends into the Rushmore? Is it going to be Tennessee or LSU? There's those traditional blue bloods, the Vanderbilts, the Arkansas. Tennessee and LSU both feel like they're in that conversation. Last year was Tennessee, but this year, obviously, LSU and all the new guys. It's unbelievable. My third story, Link Jarrett. We kind of had similar talk on that, going back to his alma mater and having success like he did at Notre Dame. That's one of my questions. And my fourth one is a team that we didn't mention, but we were talking a hell of a lot about him at this time last year. That's Texas.
Still have one of my favorite pitchers on that team. Tanner Witt, baby.
And they're preseason number one last year. Not ranked here this year. I like how they got Porter Brown out of TCU. I got one of my first team all-name guys in Garrett Guillemette out of USC. So they have some guys that transferred in along with the pedigree of being a team that had success last year, despite the rough season. They ended up playing into that number one ranked form in the postseason. So Those are my top 4 stories. How about you, Charlie?
Number one, the LSU show. I've never
Yes.
seen college wise and football wise, even MLB, NBA has so many super teams. I've never seen something like LSU and Jay Johnson built in a one off season. It's preposterous. I'm so excited to watch it. I'm gonna be tuning in every week. Very excited. Number two, another one that you had, Link Jarrett back in Tallahassee as the head coach. This is like the first time in 1,000 years that a Martin is at the helm of FSU in Tallahassee. Be interesting to see what he does. That's more of a long term, I guess, but still first year with a ton of talent. It's not like he's coming into a team that has no talent. So very excited to see what Link Jarrett does after a really good run at Notre Dame. The next two though are, I think, interesting and fun. How will the run limit rule now in the SEC affect teams and games this year? So if you don't know, and for the people that don't know, in the SEC for league games, for regular season, there will be a 10 run rule implemented.
Yes.
Which I'm okay. Like as a baseball player, no, you always want to think you're in the game, but as a fan, 99.99% of the time, if you're down by 10 runs after I don't remember what inning it is, maybe it's the 7th or 5th, you're not going to win that game, right? So just it speeds the game up, but it does suck because it's kind of like you're such a high level. It's more of a high school thing to do, but I get it. Makes travel easier for teams. You know, it's not the end of the world that people like the purists are freaking out about. I don't think it'll be that big a deal, but I'm curious to see how it works and how it affects things. And then the last one, this really applies to people in the St. Louis area, but Lindenwood University in St. Charles has recently gone D1. They're in the Ohio Valley. I'm very curious to see how does Lindenwood do year one in D1. I want to see how the Lions do. I'll probably go into quite a few games this year because it's right down the road for me.
And probably not well. I mean, they're first year.
True.
But we'll see.
But you never know.
Question. Yeah.
Never
their football team played really well, actually,
in
their first year in D1. So that was unnecessary by me, but we'll see. We shall see. So if we say so long, any final comments, Charlie, as we wrap up?
Will, I'm not gonna lie, man. I was smiling ear to ear getting ready for this podcast. It feels good to be back. I'm so excited for the season. I'm glad people are along for the ride.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. So hope you can subscribe, and listen to the show. Share it if you like it. If you don't, let us know too. We'll try to get better. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next week.